Hello and welcome back. In this episode, we're going to look at how to trace a plan. Often in your career as an architect, you will have to um, trace an image in the software of your choice. In this case, we're going to be doing this in Revit. The owners don't always have CAD files, or even better, they don't have Revit files. They often have PDFs, or in worst case scenario, they have a physical product like a print, and you'll have to digitize that print into an image in order to affect the tracing. And of course, you could old school measure everything, dimension it in the physical product, and translate those dimensions to digital software. But I think this process is easier, and so I teach this process because I know it happens in the real world to my students, and I use the Barcelona Pavilion as both a software tool and a analytical tool for architecture. So I'm going to take you through that same process. It's a very quick process, um, and the tools we're going to be learning are within Revit are insert image and scale. And then of course we're going to use the walls to trace the floor plan. So first you would start out with an open Revit file, a blank open Revit file. And under the tabs at the top, there's architecture, structure, steel, precast, etc. You're going to go to insert. And instead of Revit insert or a CAD insert, you're going to go all the way to the middle, and you'll see one called link image. Now, I already have my image queued up, so I know where I'm going. In theory, you would have already you'd know where you saved your file. Just make sure it's easily visible and accessible. So I already have one. It's called plan. I'm going to choose that and hit go. And it doesn't really matter where I put this, but I'm going to try to center it where it is. And so there's my image. Now, for those of you who understand or who know this plan, you'll know that these dimensions don't exist. It's all they give you is the floor plan and this graphic scale at the bottom. Um, but the plan I'm using is one that I've created for my students to make it a little easier, so they don't have to translate metric into imperial. We're going to use this plan. The other thing that I should mention about scaling imagery is you should do it on the largest known dimension. So, like if you found a door that was a 3.0 door and you measured it and scaled it, it would be pretty close, but there's a lot of room for error in that scaling. The larger the dimension, the less room for error, or the more accurate the scale will be. So I always encourage people to find the largest known dimension and scale based on that. And so in this case, it's that dimension across the top, 179.4. So that's the dimension from this line to that line. So I'm going to scale the drawing based on that. So you select the image, and you know it's selected because it's in blue, and make sure that it's not locked or pinned, right? So normally when you bring an image, sometimes it's pinned, or not normally, but sometimes. Just make sure it's unpinned, and you have the ability to change the size of it. I'm going to choose the scale tool, which is also under the modify raster image. Choose the scale tool. I'm going to zoom in on the tick mark, or the center of the tick mark, for 179. Right? So I'm going to scroll. That's my first click. It's a left click. So I'm scrolling out. I'm zooming in on the right click, the right tick mark, and I'm going to left click one more time. Now, so I've made 2 clicks, and you'll see just by moving my cursor back and forth that I'm scaling the image. But I don't have to do any funny math like in other programs. SketchUp, I think you have to do some funny math, although I've just learned there's no way to do something similar. So all I'm doing is I clicked once the start point, clicked the second start point, and now I'm going to give it a value, which is 179 feet 4 inches. And then now it should be at scale. I'm going to confirm with a quick measurement. So at the top, measure just between 2 reference points. I'm going to click again the center of this guy and scroll over and click again. Now before I click, notice that the top right hand corner it tells me total length 179.3, whatever. It's super close, or as my grandfather used to say, close enough for government work. So we've done it. We've successfully achieved our measurement, or our scaling, I should say. Once it is scaled, I don't want to accidentally do it again. So I'm going to select the image and pin it so that doesn't happen. And the rest of it is actually fairly easy. So if you know this drawing at all, or you know this plan at all, you know that there actually are fairly few walls. It's mostly glass, and we'll get into that. But I just wanted to explain the process of importing a plan and then tracing it. So we're going to start with something simple. On this wall here is the travertine marble wall, if you know it. And so I'm going to, again, measure it because I want a wall that looks similar. And it looks to be about 6 inches wide. So I'm going to choose Architecture tab, choose Wall, and I'm going to set this wall up later. But right now I'm going to choose generic 6 inch. And I'm going to start the wall here using wall center line. Oh, I also know that this wall is about 9 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 9 feet before I start drawing it. So I start the center line, click here, drag over, and that's it. That's the man in my wall. Now, before you get all up in arms, yes, I know that once you've created this thing, you can't see through it. That's because we're under a hidden line. So if you change that to wireframe, you can still see through it. And so that's the way I typically trace. But in this plan, I've done this enough that I'm fairly confident that I'm going to actually leave it in hidden line. And it also gives me a good sense of what I've done and what I still have yet to do. So I'll just quickly draw out some of these walls. Now, where these red lines are, I did that again as a teaching tool, so you would ignore that. But essentially, this is where there's exterior stone walls are, or at least part of them. Oh, I messed that one up, so I'm going to pull that over just a little bit using the drag tool. And I'm only doing the stone walls right now. I'm not so worried about the glass walls. Right? And then there's some more over here. So as you can see, it's very, very simple. It's not hard by any stretch of the imagination. And then there are no more stone walls. The rest are glass or masonry of some, not excuse me, glass or doors or horizontal surfaces. So that's it. I mean, I've effectively traced the plan and created all the stone walls. I'm going to choose View and look at this thing in 3 dimensions, and so you can see the walls as they've drawn out. You don't see the plan in 3 dimensions, so that can sometimes be an issue. Yeah, that's it. That's how you trace a plan and insert an image. Very, very simple, very fast. Probably significantly faster than measuring each line individually and translating those measurements into a drawing, a CAD drawing or a REVIT drawing. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. If you aren't already a subscriber, I would appreciate your subscription. And hit the announcement bell to make sure that when I publish new videos, you are a part of that as well. Have a good rest of your day.